Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. We're back for another exciting webinar. Today it's going to be about making your locksmith business more efficient. I want to make sure you guys can hear me okay. So if you're watching this in the chat, if you mind just saying like hi and where you're from, that would be great. Just so I know people are in here and hearing us. So just give it a second. See someone typing. So that must be a good sign. How's your Wednesday going, Shawn?
Going good. So far, so good.
Great. Great. All right. Yeah, I see some people typing. Okay, so we're good to go. All right, let's get into it. So today, here's a high-level overview of the agenda. I'll introduce Shawn in a bit. We'll go through the topic of making your locksmith business more efficient. We'll give you some tips. We'll have a conversation about that. We can jump into a short Q&A afterwards, and then we'll leave you guys on your merry way. So I don't know if you guys have joined a webinar before, but I like to make these interactive. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to put them in the comments. There's also a questions area on the bottom. You can click and ask a question as well. And we'll try to get through all of them. And then before we begin, I also want to point out for everyone, there's a poll that we put out there. We're going to be talking a little bit about inventory today. So if you guys want to go over to the poll section, we have a question about if you're using software to manage inventory, and that may guide some of the discussion. So without further ado, I'm Wes. I'm the moderator today. We have Shawn Fago, who's an awesome partner of Workies. I'll let him introduce himself. Shawn, tell us a little bit about your story, who you are, a little bit about Noble Key Supply, about Noble Locksmith. Let's hear it all.
Okay. Well, my name is Shawn Fago. I live in San Diego, California. I own Noble Locksmith. I founded Noble Locksmith about 8 years ago here in San Diego. And then a few years ago, we decided to start franchising the business. Now we have 20 locations across the country. And then Noble Key Supply was born out of that as well. There was a need to supply our franchise system with locksmith tools, equipment, and inventory. So we created Noble Key Supply, to supply our franchise system. And then we opened that up to independent locksmiths as well. So now there's Noble Key Supply, which is a separate business from Noble Locksmith. And then Noble Locksmith and Noble Franchising. That's all based out of here in San Diego, but we have locations across the country.
How many franchisees do you guys have now?
Well, we just signed Los Angeles 2 days ago, and I think he was the 21st, so 21.
Wow. Yeah. Well, congrats. It's quite a story. And then how did you, so you talked a little bit about Noble Key Supply, how you stumbled upon the idea. How has that been for you?
Ooh, Noble Key Supply. It's really hard to build a key supply company from scratch. So I'll start with that. The challenging part is, first of all, if you're not an automotive locksmith, you're not going to be able to pull that off because you have to understand the keys. You have to create a listing for every single item, which in our case is primarily car keys. So every single possible car key for every single possible vehicle for the last 25 years, you kind of need to stock it, and you have to have a listing for every single one of those items. So it's just an extremely painful process to build out the website, find all the inventory, get the inventory in-house, then test it, then list it, then sell it, then ship it. It's a monster. So we started Noble Key Supply about a year ago. In fact, it was October a year ago. So it's been 1 year. And it's finally really hitting its stride at this point. We first just started with the most common keys and then added just more and more and more. And the problem is, you're buying these keys directly from the factories, and there's different levels of good, right? And obviously we want our keys to be good. So you have no idea who you're buying this stuff from initially until you build a relationship with them, actually get the product in-house, start using it, testing it. Some of it's not going to work, some of it will. But it all has to work for our customers. So we test everything with my locksmith business here in San Diego first, and then work out all the bugs, figure out which product is good. So it's a heck of a process. It's a monster, but it's finally clipping along pretty well here. And we're actually opening a new warehouse in Will Call Window in San Diego in November. So that's under construction right now. So things are good. It's been a lot of work though. I don't recommend attempting to start a key supply company.
Understandable. Well, thanks for your background a little bit. And as we go into the topic today, I think let's just start out by saying the obvious. The industry itself is very competitive. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can stand out in improving your business. So number one, it's going to be finding the right software, getting your inventory right, getting the right supplier and working with the right supplier, and then how you can consistently improve through technical training. So that's a little preview for everyone in the audience about some of the things we're going to discuss today. And as a reminder, feel free to ask questions as we go on, leave comments. We want to make this interactive as possible. So the first topic today is going to be getting your inventory right. And so, again, we have a poll going on in the section. I see that some people have voted on the poll. So we asked, do you use software to manage inventory? 60% of the people that have responded so far said yes. 40% said no. I see now 67% of the people said yes, and 33% said no. There we go. Okay, so as we talk about what's going on and why getting inventory is right, getting your inventory right is important. Can you talk about why this is important, Shawn? And then I have some follow-up questions to go into for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to speak about this topic from the perspective of an automotive locksmith. I know that there's a lot of different disciplines in the locksmith industry. In my own locksmith business, we do a lot of automotive. We specialize in automotive. It's probably 80% of what we do, but we also do residential and commercial as well. There's a lot of locksmiths who only do commercial work. There's a lot of locksmiths who only do safes. There's a lot of things, but when it comes to automotive, inventory is unbelievably important. It's less important for those other disciplines. But for automotive, it's incredibly important. And the primary reason for that is when your customer calls you because they lost the keys to their car, if you don't have that key in stock, guess what you're not going to do today? Unless you have a way of getting one in stock very quickly, you're probably going to lose that customer unless nobody else has the item in stock either, because it's a really rare key or something of that nature. And in those instances, you can sometimes get lucky and have the customer wait while you special order a key and maybe have it overnighted or something like that. But knowing what you have, where they are, how many of them you have, and then also knowing things like what your cost of goods are all incredibly important. And if you're doing any reasonable volume of automotive work, I don't know how you do that without inventory management and some sort of inventory management solution. Workies obviously has a really great one that's native to the platform and built in, and it works really good. That's what we use. Yeah, getting your inventory right is very, very important.
So, quick question: how do you know? I guess how do you know what inventory items to stock, and then what do you do with? Yeah, sorry, I'll stop there, and then another question.
Yeah, that's a really hard question to answer. Unfortunately, there's no right answer. The absolute right answer is stock everything, but that's not practical by any stretch of the imagination. In my Noble Locksmith business, we stock probably 1,500 different car keys, 1,500 different ones, all unique car keys. That's a lot. Now that's probably on the extreme side, but here in San Diego, in my locksmith location, we've got multiple service vans, we've got storefronts, we're doing high volume keys, and so I just want to stock everything, but I didn't start that way. So the obvious answer is stock the most common things. every automotive locksmith is going to make a key for a Honda Civic. So have the Honda Civic keys, Toyota Prius, Ford F-150. So you're going to want to have all those keys, obviously, right? Should you stock an OEM key for a 2023 Genesis GV80? Well, probably not. Especially not if you don't have the Prius and F-150 keys first, right? So start with the most common and go from there. Well, the obvious question to that is, okay, well, what's the most common? Like there's no list that you can just find. So, you know, you're just going to have to work off of your knowledge, any reporting that you have, like Workies can give you based on the year, make, and model of vehicles that you've done in the past, how many of them, how frequent. You can also just ask your key supplier, say, hey, what are the most common keys? What are the 100 most common keys? Let me start with that. If you're not stocking inventory, start with that. And then build it up from there. The way I did it, which is probably not practical. When I first started my company, like everybody else who first starts a company, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know a lot. So for me, it was, what inventory should I stock? I'm brand new to the locksmith world. Generally, I have no clue. So the way I did it, every time I got a phone call from a customer and I didn't have a key for their vehicle in stock, I ordered it. Even if I didn't earn the business, even if I wasn't going to do a key for that customer, I ordered it anyways, because it proved to me there's demand for that item.
Yeah.
Now it could be a one-off and a rare key, so you do need to use a little bit of judgment. Like if it's a really rare car and you just instinctually know there's not a lot of those around, then maybe think about it twice. But that's the way I built my inventory. I just quite literally purchased every key I didn't have once somebody called me and asked me for it. And over the years, my inventory just turned into what you see behind me there, like a crazy amount. And that's not even everything. And that's just for our locksmith business.
Yeah.
So, you know, start with the most common basic stuff and go from there.
And then, I mean, hearing you talk, would you say it's fair to come to the conclusion that if you're not stocking the right inventory, you run the risk of losing jobs, like potential jobs and revenue?
You will. It's a guarantee. It's a certainty. The number one complaint we get from our new franchisees is, I'm losing business because I don't have the key in stock. Well, no kidding. Your customer lost the keys to their car. They have to go to work. What are they going to do? Just wait for you, or they're going to call somebody else? They're going to call somebody else. Of course they are, especially if it's a large metropolitan area. They're absolutely going to call somebody else, and they're absolutely going to find it very easily and very quickly. If you're in a very rural area and you're the only locksmith for, 100 miles in every direction, then you probably have a better chance of being able to special order the key in. But no, if you don't have it, especially if it's a common car, you're going to lose the business if all keys are lost. If they're looking for a spare key, they might wait for you if they like your price, yeah, or something like that. But still, now you're paying extra to ship things in, especially expedited shipping, because you want to get the key to the customer quickly. So having it in stock is much better. That being said, if you're not organized, that's going to turn into a major problem, because inventory is expensive. So you need to know exactly what you have, how many, where they are at all times. Also, what you paid for it. That's important too.
Yeah, for sure. We got a question. I think I'm going to rephrase this a bit for you, Shawn. When you're using our inventory tool, are you tracking like where things are by van, or how are you doing this?
Yeah. So the way that we do it, we bring the inventory into our store, so our headquarters, and from there we distribute it out to the vans depending on what it is. If it's if the van has a technician that does European vehicles, for example, we'll obviously put European keys in that van, but not into a van that doesn't do European vehicles. We'll keep some inventory back at our office as well. So we keep the rare stuff back in the store. And all the common keys are out in the vans. We keep common keys at the store too, because customers do come into the store. So we just divide it up, and then we create. They used to call it containers. Now what do they call it now? In Workies,
Yeah, like containers.
So each container is a place that
Van.
inventory is stored. So we just name them by the vans, what we call each van. And then when we do a search, we can see, okay, we have 10 of these keys. 3 of them are in that van. 4 of them are in this van. 0 of them are in this van. So don't send that van. Send one of these 2 to that customer. So yeah, or if all of the inventory is back at the store, we know that we need to have that locksmith come into the store to pick up inventory and then go out. But obviously the best thing to do to make yourself more efficient is to send the nearest locksmith that has the key and capabilities of making that key to the customer. And that way you can limit the amount of drive time, the amount of downtime, just make yourself much more efficient. Yeah.
And then I want to ask you one more question before we move on to the next topic. When it comes to low stock alerts, like how are you setting these up, and what do you do with these alerts? Like why are these important? Talk about this a little bit.
So low stock alerts is what you're going. It's going to tell you that you're low on the inventory of that one specific item. So let's say it's a 2010 Toyota Prius key, the ACX30. That is a very common key. We know we always want to have at least 2 of those keys at all times. I usually buy those keys from my locksmith business 10 at a time. So I'll set that low stock report at 4 or 5. Then when we hit 5 or whatever the threshold is that we set, that item now goes on the low stock report. So if you searched it, it'll have a red flag next to it that says low stock. So you could do it that way. You could just sort your inventory by low stock and then go through and reorder everything. Or you can literally run a low stock report and just order everything that has hit your low stock threshold. Then in addition to the common keys, the less common keys, maybe I only want to have 1. Now, I recommend everybody have at least 2 of everything for the obvious reason you can't sell them a second key if you don't have 2 of them. A lot of people, if all keys are lost, they lost all the keys of the car, they might want 2 keys. And giving them a deal on the second key is a way that you can entice that sale. Well, you can't sell them a second one if you don't have a second one. So you should really buy everything in 2. But I understand there's a limit to the practicality of this, especially on expensive keys. There are some new OEM keys where that's the only option and it's $150 each. Okay, well, it's $300 to stock just 2 of them, and it's rare, so it might sit there for a while. I get it. So for those keys, I put the threshold at 0. Once it hits 0, then we reorder. So you got to base it on how often you're using these keys, and you'll instinctually know which ones you should really have a lot of. Like the Prius key, obviously. The F-150 key, obviously. Everybody's going to sell a lot of those all the time. So set your thresholds for when it hits the low stock report accordingly.
Yeah, it's a little bit of understanding like the supply and demand of your own business at the end of the day.
Right, and that's where usage reports come in. So if you want to know, do I sell a lot of these or not? You might think you do, but I'd rather know for sure, not just what I think or assume. So you can run a usage report and literally see how many of these have we sold for any time period. So I want to know how many of these do I sell a year. If I sell 10 or more, I'm going to have at least 2 of those at all time. If I sell 30, 40, 50 or more a year, I want to have like 10 of those on hand all the time. And you'll obviously know a lot of these, but some of them will surprise you. Like, wow, I sell way more of those than I thought I did. I should stock more. Maybe I should buy in bigger bulk and try to get bulk discounts on things. So usage reports are really important as well. And that's how you're going to know for sure. But when you're first starting out, there's no way to know other than somebody telling you, here's what you probably should stock based on, they're common everywhere kind of a thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the conversation on inventory. I think it's a good time to talk about the number 2 topic today, which is finding the right supplier. So when we're talking about suppliers here, why is it important, Shawn, why is it important to find the right supplier, and how do you qualify them when you're thinking about this?
Very good question. So a good supplier is going to satisfy, hopefully, a few different things. It's going to satisfy quality. The problem is everybody wants the cheapest key. Okay, I understand the desire to spend the least amount of money for your inventory. That makes perfect sense. However, if that key doesn't work when you get to your customer's location, it is way worse and way more expensive. Not only did you pay for it and it doesn't work. Now, hopefully it's a good supplier that will let you return it for a refund, but that's all they're going to do for you. You still aren't going to get paid by that customer because you didn't make them a working key. You can't charge them a service call. It's not their fault, right? Having good quality inventory that actually works is number one. Second is price, obviously. So you want to try to balance those two things out. You want the cheapest quality that you can find. So cheapest, but it's definitely going to work is what you want. So price definitely matters. A broad selection also matters for a couple of different reasons. One, most automotive locksmiths will use their supplier's year, make, model search feature to identify the correct part number for their customer's car, or at least get them close to understanding what the proper part number is. And especially if you have standardized on your supplier's part numbers in your inventory management system, this now makes you really efficient. So you can just go onto their website on the fly. Mr. Customer calls you. They've got a year, make, whatever year, make, model of vehicle. You can just go and type that into your supplier's website, and then boom, here's all the keys for that year, make, model of vehicle. So number one, is their information correct? There's a lot of suppliers out there that don't really know. So they're saying, we think it's for this year and this year and this year, but definitely for that year. And you're left trying to figure that out. A good locksmith who's been around a while will know, but somebody who's new or maybe a dispatcher, they don't know. They're assuming that what they're presented is correct. So is their information accurate? Let me just tell you right now, there isn't a key supplier who has 100% accurate data. It doesn't exist. If accurate information is really important as well. And then, do they have it in stock when you need it? And how quickly can they get it to you, and for what price? So shipping becomes really important too. If you can find a supplier that's near you and doesn't mark up their shipping, that's great. That doesn't exist for most people though. So good shipping rates is important. Most suppliers will offer free shipping over a certain threshold. You should definitely take advantage of that. Plan your orders accordingly and get the free shipping. You want free, fast shipping, ideally, and then you want a good selection, you want good prices, and you want good quality. Okay, well, that's asking a lot of a company who is trying to run a quality business and actually make money, right? So how do you know that their inventory is good? Well, some have a reputation and some don't. I can tell you what we do for our key supply company. We test all of our stuff first. We use it on real life cars before we ever sell it to anybody else. Does that mean every key that we sell is 100% going to work 100% of the time? No, that's not possible to do unless you tested every single key, and that can't happen. It's not practical. So buying from suppliers where you've already tested that part number multiple times gives that supplier a good understanding that that product is actually going to work. Not all key suppliers do that. Not all key suppliers have the ability to do that. In fact, most don't, because most of them are not also locksmiths. They have to wait until they sell it for it to fail and then get the report back. And they have to have that happen a certain percentage of the time before they realize they have a problem with the product and they can pull it. So, you know, some have good reputations, some don't. The cheapest usually have the worst reputation with that. So buyer beware. And I can tell you this, if you've bought one specific key from a supplier and it's failed multiple times, stop buying that key from them. Find a different supplier, at least for that part.
Yeah. Are you so question I have is if you have an existing relationship with the supplier you're working with, how do you know it's time to reevaluate the supplier that you're working with? I know you talked a little bit about if a key isn't working multiple times. Are there other examples you can think of that cause someone to rethink the supplier relationship?
Um, I mean, a lot of people have a lot of different reasons. I mean, here's the reality of the situation. You should have your main supplier and some backups. There is no single supplier who will have everything in stock all the time. It's not practical to expect them to. That's very difficult to actually pull off. So you need a backup just in case your supplier doesn't have what you need. That's number one. Number two, if your supplier has a bad key, which will happen, you need a backup. But you also need a backup that is hopefully going to sell you something different than the supplier, the other supplier that sold you a bad key. Because here's the dirty little secret: there's only a couple factories that exist that make most of these keys, and a lot of these suppliers are all buying from the same place. So if a bad batch of keys go out, it might be infecting a lot of different places. How quickly they detect it and address it is the real issue. So you'll have your trusted guys, but you're always going to find somebody who has a bad key. So you might want to pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, we bought this key from this supplier and it didn't work. Do you know if yours is going to be different or have that same problem, or have you had any reported problems, and then buy it? So it's hard, unfortunately. You got to kind of go with customer service, reliability, and price. Those are your three big concerns. If your suppliers notching all three of those, perfect. Stick with them and have a few backups. You should price check things all the time. Also, there's a lot of suppliers that are constantly fluctuating their price points. We try to hold ours steady. We have actually only moved our prices in one direction, and that is down. Anytime that we're able to buy in bigger bulk and save some money, we don't just pocket the difference. We cut the price of the key to make it a more affordable key for our customer. There are a lot of suppliers though who will have a price point on a specific item. Let's just say $10 this week and then $15 next week. And if you just got it on like auto buy, you might be overpaying and not even realize it. They play that some play those games. I'm not going to name any names right now, but I don't think that's a very ethical way of doing business. A lot of them also have all kinds of crazy sales all the time. If you're a locksmith in this industry, you will get all the emails like, it's a Columbus Day sale, it's a Valentine's Day sale, it's any whatever day sale. But the sales all usually kind of niche, and surprisingly, their shipping rates go up, so they're making up the difference in the shipping. It's a whole racket. It drives me crazy. So find the ones that aren't playing these games, that they're consistent with their price. Their price is always consistently good. The quality is good, and they usually have it in stock. That's your guy. And then have some backups.
All right, good stuff. I think this is a good time to transition to our next topic. We talked a little bit about kind of like the day-to-day aspect of inventory and the supplier relationship. I think now is a good time to talk about like maybe what I would say is future-proofing your business, or like always improving your offering. So the third topic today is going to be technical training. When you're looking at technical training, Shawn, what type of training is out there, and why should locksmiths be looking into this and care about this?
Yeah, so ongoing education is important, probably pretty much with any business, but especially in this industry. And the number one reason is things are always evolving. Security on vehicles is always getting tighter. The manufacturers of vehicles do not want to have a bad reputation of their vehicles being easy to steal. And because the criminals always get better at stealing cars, they have to continually enhance the security of the vehicles. So new keyways, new ways to program the vehicles, new EEPROM methodologies. There's always things that are being added to this industry and enhanced in this industry. And if you don't understand how to deal with that new technology, Well, that's a limitation on what you can service out in the field. Most automotive locksmiths are going to start with the basics. They're going to start with Japanese, Korean, and North American made vehicles. And then they will eventually start doing European vehicles. They'll start with the more basics, you know, Volkswagen, Audi, early BMW, and then get more advanced and more EEPROM work and things of that nature. And the way that you learn how to do that stuff is training. You can learn a lot from YouTube, but YouTube should really be used for things like, well, first of all, if you use a Smart Pro, Advanced Diagnostics has a pretty good YouTube channel where you can literally watch somebody program a vehicle for almost every year, make, model of vehicle that there is, almost, with the Smart Pro. So that's cool if you're a Smart Pro user. And then if you're going to do something like take a car door apart to replace the lock because there was damage to the lock from a break-in attempt or something, you've never taken apart a door for a 2009 Chevy Silverado. Well, there's a YouTube video for that. Guaranteed, I can find a YouTube video for that. My technicians call me all the time, like, hey, I got to take this door apart, not quite sure. I'm like, hang on, here's a video. Like, watch that video, and it's going to show you where all the little hidden screws and bolts are, so you don't break your customer's car trying to figure out how to take it apart. Watch somebody else do it first. YouTube is great for stuff like that. And that's free and easy and at your fingertips all the time. But more advanced training, that's going to be done at either a trade show like Aloha. There used to be something called Just Cars, which was fantastic. They don't do Just Cars anymore, unfortunately. So I think Aloha is just kind of taking over more of the automotive stuff. But there's plenty of training at Aloha. A lot of your suppliers will actually put training on as well. Now, yes, it's an opportunity for them to sell you something, but don't look at it that way because you don't have to buy anything. But it's also a value add that they're providing. They usually will also charge a nominal fee, but you can get a lot out of it. I have attended a lot of those trainings over the years. I've gotten a lot out of it. They're good. It's expensive. You usually have to travel, hotels, all that type of stuff. But investing in your knowledge, or your knowledge base through these trainings will definitely, pay dividends as time goes on. I have learned how to do most of the European vehicles that we do here at Noble Locksmith through trainings like that. Then there's independent training courses that you can take. Some of them will call themselves locksmith schools or things like that. Those are varying degrees of bad to good. Some are good, some are not. Some are extremely expensive, some are not. So do your research. Ask some people if you know. Facebook has some really awesome Facebook groups. If you don't know if you're not in any of those groups, you should join them. They're free. There's a lot of really knowledgeable people in there. You can ask questions and try to also provide value to the community. So you can learn a lot that way. But you can also just ask, hey, is anybody taking this class? What'd you learn from it? You'll get real honest feedback real fast. But also what's really important when you look at training is what are they training on, meaning what platform? So if they're teaching you how to program a BMW with an ACDP, for example, well, now you have to buy an ACDP also. And if that's not a programmer you want, or if you already have different equipment, then you need to find training that is going to train on the equipment that you have or the equipment that you want to use. So when it comes to training, I definitely recommend it. Ongoing training is really important, and a lot of key suppliers do offer it. And then there's also training like how should I advertise my business, accounting. Like there's all kinds of different trainings you could take. It's not just your technical ability with your locksmith skills. So yeah, training is absolutely invaluable.
And then when you're talking about training, you talked a little bit about like the sales and marketing aspect, or maybe there's more to expand on, but I think we agree that training doesn't only stop at the technical level. And then my real question is, do you pay or do you provide training to your team, like your team of technicians?
Yes. So a lot of training we'll do in-house. So for my locksmiths that work directly for me in my locksmith business, not talking about franchisees, that's a different training regiment. But if I have like a new hire, for example, we will train them in-house. If I have a seasoned locksmith that's been with me for a while that I want them to step their game up, I might send them away to a training course. Or if there's a new training that has come out for a thing that we haven't been able to do as a company, I will usually go to it personally and probably bring one of my locksmiths along with me. And so, yeah, I will send technicians to technical training. I will also personally go to technical training when it's appropriate. And then also, just as the business owner, there's a lot of training that you can invest in as well, not related to the locksmithing business. I have, before I was ever a locksmith, I was a Google advertising specialist. So that was kind of my background. And that has been invaluable to my business. So that's another thing that I would encourage everybody to take training on. There's a lot of free YouTube resources out there that will only get you so far, though. But professional training in that is really important. If you're relying on Google to generate business for you, but you're paying a third-party company to do it, I promise you, you are way overpaying for every customer that you generate. So bringing that in-house is very valuable, but you have to know what you're doing, because if you set that up wrong, that's a great way to waste a lot of money as well. So I would recommend all of that. Also, bookkeeping is very expensive. If you're paying a bookkeeper, if you don't, you're either doing that because you don't have time to do it, or you're doing it because you don't know how to do it. If you've got the time, why not learn how, bring it in-house, save that expense? And that's what we do. I really enjoy that part because it really helps you understand your business. When you're doing the books and you're looking for every transaction, every receipt, you get very intimate with what your expenses are. So that can be a really big benefit too. But again, you need training because nobody's just a certified accountant right out of the door, nor should you really try to be. But at least you need to know how to use QuickBooks or accounting software to track all of your expenses and keep that updated on a regular basis. It's fine to outsource that too if you're really busy. I get it. But my point is, nobody is ever going to be trained up on everything. So you should always be constantly learning and always seeking out new training. It's only going to make you better, even if it's something that you might not use. It might lead you down other paths as to what you can use. I took a training course on, what did they call it? Locksmithing forensics. And now I have been hired as an expert witness multiple times in federal
wow.
in federal cases, and I get paid for that. Without that training, I never would have thought to take that training. I just thought it would be interesting. I kind of had a down day. So I took that training, and that led me down this whole other path that generates revenue for my business. So training is always invaluable. Even if you think I'm never going to use this, you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I think it's a crazy story with the forensic stuff. Gene put a comment in. He's put a few great comments in. First about how he's using Workies, and then next about some of the softwares he's using. Our last topic, we have 5-6 minutes left, is actually about using the right tools. So, Shawn, when you're looking at your locksmith business, what kind of tools are you using, and then what types of tools should people be looking at? And you talked a little bit about QuickBooks.
Yeah.
There's also like Workies for scheduling, inventory, stuff like that. But can you kind of give high level overview of what tools you found most effective?
Well, I don't know how you run this business without a good scheduling software. I also don't know how you run an automotive locksmith business without a good inventory management system. Those two things, especially if you're doing any sort of high volume, if you're a one-man show, you got one van, and you're trying to run it off a spreadsheet, I still think you're gonna just be killing yourself. You gotta be organized. So we've used Workies from the very beginning. Scheduling is really important. Having a good CRM, so understanding who your customers are, being able to search all their past invoices. You might have a customer that calls you 3 months later that says, "Hey, I need a receipt for the thing you did for me." Okay, find it. With us, it's just type their phone number into a search bar and boom, there's everything for that customer ever, right? So you got to be organized. You got to have all of this information searchable, reportable. There's a saying that one of my old bosses way back used to say: if you don't measure it, or if you can't measure it, you cannot manage it. And that is so true. How do you know how many of those things to buy for your inventory if you don't know how many you sell historically? How do you project how many you're going to sell if you don't know how many you've already sold, right? Marketing. Where are your customers coming from? Most people don't know this. Workies, you can set up a bunch of different phone numbers in Workies, meaning set up tracking numbers. You can have a phone number on the side of your van. You can have a phone number on your website. You can have a phone number in your Google ad. You can have a phone number on your Yelp page. All of those can be different phone numbers. So when somebody calls your business, you can literally run a report and say, how many jobs did I get from Yelp? If you don't know and you're paying money to Yelp, is there a return on your investment? How big of a return on your investment? What if there is no return, but there's a huge return on Google? Should you just cut the budget on Yelp and put it into Google? Yes, probably you should, but you have data to back that up. If you're not using tools to measure these things, you don't have a business. You're just operating on hope, and hope is a terrible business strategy. So tools are very important. I'm not saying everybody has to necessarily buy Workies, but like if you're a locksmith, honestly, you probably should. But you need to have a way to measure and manage every metric of your business, from your call reports, who's calling, where are they calling you from, what are your click to call book, or what are your booking ratios? Like we can literally tell you, how many clicks does it take to get a phone call from Google? How many phone calls does it take to book a customer? What's our average customer worth? What's our average cost of goods? Like, we have a business plan right now. We wouldn't have any of that if we weren't tracking it and measuring it. So all of these tools are very important. You also need good accounting software. We use QuickBooks. There's some other things out there you can use, but it all links up and syncs up very seamlessly and works really, really well if you set it up properly and actually put all the information in. If you're going to put data in, all has to go in, and it all has to be accurate. So you do need to be diligent with it. But if you're running your business that way, you're going to have really good business data to enhance your business and make business decisions on what to do next. Should I add another van? Should we invest more in advertising? Should we invest more in inventory? I can answer all those questions with data.
Awesome. I appreciate that answer there. We have time, I guess, for a question or two. I don't know if anything else will come up, but if you guys do have questions in the chat, please, now is a good time to ask anything that's on your mind. While we're waiting for that, Shawn, why don't you tell us a little bit more about where people can hear from you on like the supplier side, or if on the locksmith side? Yeah, talk a little bit about where people can work with you.
Yeah, so if you're a locksmith, you can engage with us at nobleKeySupply.com. From there, there's a phone number. If you have any technical questions about inventory, we're happy to talk to you about that. And check us out. We're open to all locksmiths at nobleKeySupply.com. And then if you're not a locksmith but want to be one, you can engage with us at NobleLocksmith.com. And that is our franchising website. That's where all of our existing franchisees are listed and where new franchisees would request more information. So that's how you can engage with us. But primarily, I think we probably have mostly locksmiths here. So NobleKeySupply.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Shawn. I put those links in the chat for people to save. I think that one thing I'll say before we go is, if you guys want to watch the recording of this, it's all of our webinars are posted on our website. Just go to workies.com. Under the resources, there's a webinars link, and you can watch all of them we've done. This will be there. You can also use the same link that you joined with today to rewatch it, but I would just recommend going to our website and doing that. Shawn, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today. This was awesome conversation. Really appreciate it. Ilana, thanks for the comment there. Great info. Thanks for the feedback. Shawn, again, thanks for the time today. I don't know if you have anything else to say, but I'll leave you some time before I end this event.
All right. We're good. Thank you so much.
Cool. Sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and end the event, and all of you guys for joining. Thank you as well. I'll stick around for another minute or so in case anybody has anything else in the comments after I end the event. But until next time, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.